This week on Lessons I Learned in Law, I'm joined by Andy Cooke, who is Chief Legal Officer at Perk, which is one of the world's fastest growing and largest providers. It's a platform provider for business travel. Now, Andy's been someone who's been on my radar for a long time. A lot of people have mentioned we should have him as a guest on the show. He's got some really interesting views about what a modern legal function looks like. He joined Perk in 2022. It's a bit of a rocket ship. He's scaled it to a team of 15 that's embedded within the business, but sits European-wide. Now, his story is really international. He's worked and lived in Prague, in Hong Kong, Dubai, in London, and now he's back in Yorkshire, where he moved back to give his family a sense of place and himself. And he's working and doing a lot of travel around, not too dissimilar to myself. So in this episode, we talk about how legal and why legal should be product thinking, should be putting the user of their services, even internally as a legal team, at the center of the issue and being customer focused, and how to scale without adding headcount, and a little bit around that all-important question of getting a seat at the table, which is something that's discussed a lot in the profession. So there's lots on there to unpack, whether you're part of a scaling business or you're stuck in private practice and thinking, what's my next move? So let's dive in. Today's episode of Lessons I Learned in Law is proudly brought to you by Wordsmith AI. Now, Wordsmith AI is redefining how in-house legal teams automate routine tasks and repetitive tasks like contract review and internal requests, so that you and your legal team can work strategically and work on proactive projects. They're an Edinburgh-based startup. They're one of the UK's fastest growing startups, and at a really exciting time in their growth journey. They're showing how technology, AI and talent as a combination can really build the modern in-house legal team. So find out more by heading over to wordsmith.ai.
Hi Andy, welcome to Lessons I Learned in Law.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's good to have you here on this baking hot day. We've managed to coordinate diaries and stars have aligned that we're in London at the same time.
Yeah, hot weather, hot chat.
Yeah,
listeners,
exactly.
That's the commitment today.
Exactly. Yeah. Hope so. And yeah, because we were trying to organise this for a few, whether it was Amsterdam or London, you get around.
Yeah, I get around. What you're saying is we're both very international and jet setters. Yeah. It's good to establish that early.
I've come on the Eurostar this weekend, but all good. So I've given a brief introduction to your background and an overview. But if you could start at the top and tell us a bit about your current role, overview the team size, and a bit about the business as well.
Okay, Chief Legal Officer of Perk. Perk is a marketing people would have me say it is a category defining travel and expense management platform. We recently added the expense bit. So Perk was founded more or less 10 years ago, started to raise quite significant money just before COVID, which was lucky because during COVID, our business got thrown into reverse. We were negative revenue, we're having to pay people back. But one of the really founding, establishing facts of the Perk culture that we have today, we're going to talk about culture later on, is that we kept everybody on during COVID. And what that meant was when COVID went away, and we never talk about it now because we've all memory hold it. when it all went away, we were able to leap out. Since that time, and I joined Perk in February 22, it has been a train. It's been hanging on. We've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. We've done debt. We've bought companies, all kinds of things. My team during that time has gone from one permanent person to now 15.
Okay.
We recently brought on 5 from an acquisition, Yokoi, an expense management platform in Switzerland. So those guys are coming on board. They're getting into our culture. Actually, interestingly, so today's 1st of July. That is the first day when we are officially sort of all merged as a team. We were already merged as a team, but we were officially now merged as a team. And that's just really been change. Yeah, it's been really exciting because when you're building a team, there's a lot of design into it, but there's also a lot of happy accidents, right? So how you build that culture, we are very focused and deliberate about how we build a culture, but you've got to almost when you bring new people in, you've got to break that back down for them to what's your jumping off point into how we work. Very automated, very AI led, very tools led. extremely customer centric, or I think that we're very customer centric. Not all lawyers work in that way. Again, we still have folks whose job it is, or see themselves as being the people that beat risk out of contracts, and they do it, 10 times a day, and then they close the laptop and they do it again the next day, and so on. And again, a very progressive team coming in many ways, but moving out of that role of the analogy we always reach for is you're not a barista, you're a coffee machine builder.
Right.
And moving away from that idea of if I just, heat the milk faster or grind the beans quicker, then that's development, that's process, that's efficiency, and so on, into no, you just need to get out of the way. Automate everything, and let's have you do the things that you actually join this, or went to law school to do, or join this business to do, or whatever it may be.
Cool.
Before that, built 2 other teams for in-house organisations, one in music and sport and one in esports, so pro video gaming. And then before that, I worked at Norton Rose for about 10 years.
Okay, nice. In London?
London, Prague, Hong Kong, Dubai. So again, I also got around there because basically they just like to move me on constantly. Again, we could talk a little bit about why that might be. Not, I should stress, because of poor work.
No, nice. Because you made yourself redundant because you were automating all the processes and.
Well, something like that.
Nice. And you live in Yorkshire?
I do. A proud Yorkshireman. So we lived abroad for many years, and my kids were born, or our kids were born abroad. Okay. And there's a kind of like a recognised thing with kids that are born abroad that sometimes they find it a little bit difficult to sort of they feel a bit rootless sometimes. And so, because my wife and I are from Yorkshire, when we came back, it was like, okay, let's go back to the homeland and get them set up there. So they're now proud Yorkshiremen, and they can go and work wherever, or live and work wherever it is they want to do that in the future, knowing that they have a home under the White Rose. Yeah, nice, very good. What age did you bring them back? Did you move back and settle in Yorkshire? Good question. So it was just about 2019. Okay. So so they are 16 and 12. 14 now. Okay. Wow. It was it's an interesting one. There's moving back is particularly when you've been away for a long time, right? Yeah. And you've sort of established yourself in that culture, and any immigrant or expat knows that those first years are difficult, right? You've got to establish yourself again, and work out how things work in a different country and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people, quite reasonably, having done all that hard work, are just like, right, okay, we're set up here now, and this is all good. In addition to the bit with the kids, I wanted more professionally, right? And as did my wife. And I don't think I'd be working at a rocket ship, like just growth engine, like Travel Perk, if I hadn't come back, re-established myself here. And again, we're going to talk about the importance of network, but re-establishing myself here gave me that platform to then get into this job, which has just been a blast. Very good. And how's the business size, like your legal functions, scaled significantly in that time? Is that mirrored by the business headcount numbers as well? Yeah, we've about 5x headcount in the last 3 years. We've about 10x revenue. So, it's yes, the team has grown, and again, it's, had it not been for this kind of inorganic growth, I don't think we would necessarily be at the number that we're at. But what I do see is, again, the toolkit that the team has now is just taking us into new value areas kind of constantly. So our engagement with the team at scale, and particularly the way in which we are scaling outcomes for that team, is, again, very different to most teams. So people say, interested to add headcount. I would much rather, again, just bring up the levels of value that the team is offering to the current TK employees and do it that way. Yeah, but I think one of my colleagues had the first outright conversation where a prospect, someone we were talking to, had opted for an AI automation rather than adding a headcount for contract review type position. But historically, they would have added another headcount, but had gone down and bought the SaaS and bought the robot. So. Or got our work cut out. Nice. So we'll jump into lesson one, if you could share that. Yeah. The first lesson is you're selling a product. Right. And sort of what let's just, again, I suppose the fundamental parts, right? What's a product? So a product is, you've got a customer, and the customer's got a need, and you deliver something that meets that need. And one of the themes that we might come back to is about assumptions that people make. It can be very easy when you're working in a massive law firm or a massive company to just assume that the work that you're doing is adding value to your client. Particularly for this generation coming up now, I would encourage all of you guys to be, and again, the term in tech, it's a cliche now, but first principles about this, to actually really question whether the work that you're doing is adding value.
Right.
Because if you're replicating something that a bot can do, so touching on that subject that you just mentioned, then you're probably not really adding value unless you're doing it at the same price as the bot, as quickly as the bot, and so on, right? Like, so escalating yourself out of that is pretty important, and understanding that distinction. So for lawyers in private practice, again, you're selling Bentleys. Like your bill, even if it's what you consider to be a small bill, and I had this as a associate, and my partner's just going, oh, that's only 50 grand, just get it out or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big flipping bill. So for your customer, it's very likely that's going to be in the top 1 to 5% of the bills that they'll pay in a given year. Right? That's a large amount of money.
Yeah.
And yet you come a little bit inured to that, I think, in private practice. So thinking about what does a customer procuring luxury goods want? They want a very centralized, narcissistic experience. And I don't mean narcissistic in a bad way. I mean very self-centered experience. Like everything needs to work for them. And you need to adhere to that sort of value proposition while, again, really questioning, am I doing things in a way that delivers what my customer wants? Speed and convenience being the obvious one. And in-house, again, does your customer really want you to be the risk out of every contract? That might be what you understand that your customer wants, but have you really got into what it is that they want? Because most likely they want, again, speed and convenience, particularly if you're in a sales-led organization. If you're in a product-led or you're in your product council, or you're in a product-led business, again, they probably want the similar kind of thing, but they want you out of the way in the nicest possible. And that's not because they don't want to talk to you. It's because they've got a deadline that they need to hit. Yeah. Shipping product or shipping features is what wins, that wins customers, gives the salespeople the tools to win the war, to win customers. So if you're putting roadblocks in the way and you're there crossing your arms and saying this can't happen, you can see that the incentives just don't align. So again, how can you connect with the product org in a way that helps them achieve their goals, helps the company you're working for drive value? Yeah. And again, the critical lesson here is don't make assumptions about this stuff. Ask the question.
And when did it click for you to talk in those terms and think about it as a product and the sort of selling of that product and legal services?
Well, essentially, before we were talking, before we started the recording, we were talking about your experience and how you kind of we both very briefly touched on it, but in essence, you were just saying I just couldn't connect with what it, like when I was a lawyer, I just couldn't sort of connect with it.
Yeah.
Right back at the very start of my career, I didn't know anybody who was a lawyer. There was no lawyers in my family. And so I had a view of what lawyers did. And sort of when I went into private practice, everyone else seemed to be playing everyone else seemed to understand the rules of the game in a way that I didn't. And I'm sure they felt the same way about everyone else, that's the way that it goes.
Yeah.
But it just struck me that I didn't come in with a model of this is how you do it. It just seemed like, this is weird. Like, why are we not really investing in people? This is a people business. Why do you become a manager just by sitting in a chair longer than everyone else?
Yeah.
Again, I know that law firms have got way better at this, and Norton Rose have particularly. But those are things that I just kind of never really understood. And so then when I moved into private practice, it wasn't like I was trying to impose I moved into in-house. It wasn't like I was trying to impose this, I've cracked it in private practice, and so therefore I'm just going to land the same thing and just do it the same way. Yeah. It was like, actually, I don't have to do any of this stuff now. I can do it how I want to do it. Unlearn some stuff, and then launch it. When it started to become, and technology started to come in, and automation started to come in, being able to combine those things and driving value through scalability, which again is typically not something that lawyers think about, I don't think. That's a mini lesson about scalability. Then those things all start to come together in terms of, okay, how do we drive an upstream culture that creates an innovative way of working? Because we're going to be working, or I wanted to work with very fast scale startups. If I wanted to work with very well funded, very regular business, I would have stayed where I was. Yeah. But I wanted to work in that milieu. So if you want to be in there, you've got to respond to what the customer need is in there. And the customer need in there is, it's high risk, it's high reward, Series A, seed businesses. Travel Perk is later than that, but it's going to move quickly. And if you don't move at the same speed as the business, then you're just going to get circumvented, rolled over. So, okay, how are we going to do this? And once you start to, again, connect into what is the need of this business and how can I serve that need through what it is that I deliver? And how can I recruit? I mean, this is an advantage of starting with one permanent headcount, right?
Yeah, right.
Is you can start to recruit people who look at the world in the way that you look at it and are curious and are proactive and have agency. Also share your views on how important it is to get this stuff.
Yeah. How do you test for that in interviews? Because it's a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. This is a completely Amazon thing. Have people in the interview who are there to look for something specific. At the same time, every interview, that person is focusing on looking for the same thing, and so they're going to get better and better and better at it.
Right.
So rather than just, okay, you should probably meet this person, and that person like rocks in with their CV and says, when were you last demotivated, and tell me when you want to be in 5 years, and like cliched things that they've heard people say.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, okay, so I'm here to look for curiosity, and I know that when we hired these people before, this was the outcome that I gave, so I'm going to monitor for that. And again, just keep on. So this interview is just going to be about this. Or we're going to have a group interview, and we're going to be looking for, again, that proactiveness, agency, and so on. Each person man-marking those different attributes. And so the idea is that we just keep on getting better at looking for the things that we know drive success, rather than it just being a monkey throwing darts at a wall.
So do you have a few of those that you look for, that people look for? Yeah. Interesting. Any books on that you'd recommend or anything?
Yeah, there's a zillion. I used to be very senior at Amazon Books, and I'm sure it's true. A good summary of Amazon sort of practices. So this is like bar raising in the 6-page memos and all the stuff that you've heard about before. It's called Working Backwards. I can't remember the author, but Working Backwards is, again, when you're launching a product, you write the press release first. So what's the customer value proposition? And then you work back from that. And they give the example of Alexa, but we've started doing that for privacy features as well. So we've done it for a little while, but I want to, leaning into the product idea, really start to formalize our shipping cadence, so that because we work in sprints, when we are working to deliver something, I want the delivery date to be set in concrete. And so having a very clear view of why are we doing this, how does it help Travel Perk win, what are we actually, when you give me like a 5-second example of how this is going to benefit TK, we've got a really clear expression of what that can be, and everyone understands why we're putting resources against that thing and why it's important. So I found that quite helpful.
Okay, so good reading. I'll check it out. Cool. I'm asking you, putting you on the spot, but asking you for either a failure that you've made in your career, or a mistake, or a joke, a legal joke.
Okay. Well, I think the failure was to not back myself.
Right.
So again, coming into this kind of private practice environment and thinking that I had to adapt to be more like that environment. And again, I'm not saying that, do you know what I mean? You don't have to, like, if you're doing a training contract or whatever, you don't have to, like, kick in the front doors of the firm that you're working at and just walk up to the CEO and give it to him. I'm not saying that. Please don't do that. Or maybe do, it's up to you. I do think that, and it's all it's all learning. But it took me a long time to work out that actually the way I wanted to work was different, and that was fine. And I just needed to find the environment where the way I wanted to work was going to be valued. So again, that point I mentioned earlier on, just getting moved around, I think the firm felt it too. You know what I mean? Like, not quite. Okay, we'll try this guy over here. We'll try him over there. There's definitely there's something there, but it's just kind of. Right. It was actually working with I worked with a partner out in Hong Kong, one bank trying to buy another bank, and this was the first time that we'd used databases to serve up due diligence results, which sounds ridiculous now when e-discovery is a thing and you have data rooms and so on. That was quite innovative back in 2009, and it was like something just clicked. That person gave me the room to go and find a solution for myself, didn't try and push one down onto me, didn't require me to use the tools that the firm had. And so that experience of just being given, again, agency to run with something, deliver an outstanding outcome for the customer, was like, this is how this is going to work. Now I understand it, but it took me a long time to get there. Right. And so you can sort of, this is Angela Duckworth book, isn't it? Grit. Yeah. We are just like, okay, what the current generation don't have is gumption or whatever, and like garbage. Sorry, I mean, it's an interesting book in other ways, but you can smack your head off a wall for a while. Yeah. And it can take a while to realise that the wall's not going to move. And it's not gritty to continue to smack your head off a wall, right? The answer is to walk away from the wall and walk around it and go do something else. Yeah. Now, a lot of that resonates with me. As I said, we were speaking beforehand. I just,
Yeah, in that environment where I agree, I didn't back myself either as a lawyer in private practice. Didn't feel at home or that comfortable in the surroundings and just the environment. And I think like at the time probably didn't give myself enough credit, but in a way I don't regret that. I think it's probably culturally or just how I am as a person. Yeah, maybe not backing myself in that way, but something you said earlier as well. I just remember being, in terms of the value, and back in your first lesson, I remember being a junior associate, I think, and we were doing investment. There was corporate investments or small corporate investments in Edinburgh. And it would come, you'd have the completion, it'd be like high fives, fist bumps to the team that had the investment, and the invoice would go out, and it would be, you'd knocked your pan in on this deal for however long, and the client's querying every line by line on hours spent with a billable hour. It's just, and the feel-good factor drains, becomes a little contentious or frayed. It just seemed totally alien to not have either better lines of communication, which didn't seem to exist, or just a fixed fee model or something. But I think everyone's looking for that perfect formula. Do you think it exists? Is there any innovative ways that you've seen in terms of pricing legal work? You mentioned sort of luxury product, but
well, I mean, certainly there's a lot of keenness of value-based billing now, or we see firms talk about that a little bit more. I'm a little bit cynical about that, by which I mean, I think, okay, if the billable hour is going away now because, everything is automatable, and we all know it's automatable, so you can't pretend that it's not. Okay, now I'm interested to talk about value-based billing. Okay, right, that's interesting. So it's like, I see it more as a margin protection thing than I do a real, maybe we can get some of that kind of Goldman Sachs money if we price ourselves accordingly. And there certainly will be a layer of the market engaged in truly innovative work. There's a lot of work being done by that phrase, truly innovative, but doing truly innovative work, where I think there is a justification for that. Right? Like, certainly there's been moments where, we have some really outstanding external counsel where in the clutch, like, just that wisdom comes through and you're like, yeah, that's what I'm paying for, like, that's for sure. Right? Yeah. There's also a lot of time when I'm getting billed for, like, old rope deluxe, and it's like, actually, yeah, it's fine, we just drop that off. Why have you done that already?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? True. So again, like, we're up for trying all kinds of things. And again, we always say to our partner firms, like, our risk tolerance is quite high. If you want to try stuff, we're talking to founders of legal tech businesses all the time. Because some of the best partnerships we've built has been by engaging with founders at an early stage. Like, we've been the first customers of several AI startups. And so we're like, that's about as high risk as it gets in terms of tech. Like, first customers of a completely green startup. So why don't you try send us some associates. Like, we've put people on secondment to law firms, and typically what they come back and say to us is their tech is terrible.
Right.
So again, we can work with that. And I encourage, and again, if you're working in a law firm right now, ask your customers what they're using, particularly like the ones who you know, not the ones who are going to reassure you and just go, oh yeah, we use like Word and Copilot or whatever. Yeah. Like, people who are really doing something interesting, go and ask them what they're doing and why they do it that way, and see what you can take it back to your firm.
I think it's good advice for all levels of associates and partners. Cool. We'll move on to lesson 2.
All right. Influence.
Right.
We've got a really weird view of what influence comprises. And I think a lot of that is down to, again, that sort of barista mentality we were talking about earlier on. Like, I have to insert myself between the customer and the product in order to get paid. And there are whole conferences dedicated to like how to get a seat at the table and all this kind of stuff. And I certainly do engage with it. And this is regular advice. It's also tied up in these kind of cliche terms, your trusted advisor and these kind of things, which I always find such a strange and arrogant term. Yeah. This idea that I'm going to sit here like on my trusted advisor throne, and you're going to come to me and I shall dispense wisdom to you, and you'll just go, oh, I know that I've just founded a $3 billion company, but and it's not my first rodeo, but thank you, trusted advisor, for your deep insight. Like, Jesus, like, have some humility. Do you know what I mean? So this idea of sitting at the table, I certainly go to conferences where, much more, I don't know, story, GCs, bigger companies, whatever it might be. And I see that there's a brand role to be played of being there in the boardroom, exuding security and stability and those kind of things. And, clearly fast growth tech is not that kind of company, so fine. But again, it goes back to that idea of value proposition. People can expend a lot of energy getting themselves into these rooms and speaking to the right people and being seen to speak to the right people and secretly looking for those high fives, right? From the CEO's just said, good job, whatever. We are a no high five team.
Okay.
Externally. Which, I mean, we need to know that we're delivering value, and sometimes that value isn't going to be something which your customer is going to immediately validate. You spend a lot of time building workflow, and actually what the workflow does is it stops you being part of the conversation. So I think I'm pretty sure this is right. In the last 90 days, we've had 0 interventions on our sales contract database. Right. We're doing about, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 documents a quarter. So we're just completely out of it. That's not something that gets you high fives. You can flag it and go, hey, this is good. An industry standard is way, way higher than that. So we're like really world class in this particular aspect of our automation. Okay, but it's kind of a little bit abstract. But you know that you're doing something great there. So again, we have influence because we impact the business. We've built a solution and we continue to update that solution. Like, the thing that really stresses me out is thinking that we're just going to sit back and rest and just be like, oh, we've dialed all this. Like, that really bothers me. You've got to really keep driving forward. That's what makes us influential. So impact, scale, touching every travel, like a building workflow that people don't even know that they're using, a legal workflow. They're just doing, it's another tool for them to help TravelPerk to win. Yeah. That's influence. Focus on that. Don't focus on sitting in a room with the right people, because when you're in that room, you're not scaling your value.
Yeah. Just going to pause for a couple of seconds and say that today's episode is brought to you in partnership with Wordsmith AI. The Wordsmith AI is redefining how in-house legal teams work and operate, and how they automate repetitive tasks like contract review and other internal queries, and fielding those internal requests that are repetitive and can clog up how a legal team works. It allows in-house legal teams, frees up time to work on more strategic projects proactively. They're based in Edinburgh, so it's close to my heart, and they're one of the fastest growing legal technology providers globally. And they're really redefining how you can take technology and people and talent and transform the way that a business operates. So check them out at wordsmith.ai.
And do you think it's still important to, how do you communicate those wins subtly in order to ensure that you are recognised, I guess, or is that not important?
Well, it's going back to it's going back to that idea of a product. Yeah. So if you've got a product, then you've also got product marketing, and product marketing nowadays means influencers. So who are the influencers? And it won't be necessarily the most senior person in the team. Like some of our first of all, some of our most successful influencers have been people who previously were very upset with how the service they got from legal. Yeah, like, and this is very, very typical in a scaling business. The first thing you invest in, I mean, again, assuming you're not like super heavily regulated or something like that, you're not going to start investing in legal. What you're going to do is just go, oh my God, we're spending so much money on legal. Let's just get somebody in to handle this. And that person promptly drowns, right? And then they need resource, but the resource is just, I need firefighters. So you get the firefighters in, and the firefighters continue to firefight. And then up until the point where someone comes in and goes, well, let's just take a step back here, what we're trying to achieve. I'm going to build a future state, and hey, firefighters, you're unfortunately going to need to fight 2 fires now because we're building the future state and the current state. But like, somebody needs to come in and get sponsored to do that. It's very hard to make the shift organically, right? What got you here won't get you there. Marshall Goodman's book, I think. Yeah. No. So yeah, that shift in, we're not going to. So, pardon me. The people that have been the strongest advocates for us are people who are either like forward-thinking themselves, who you sort of, again, because we're engaging with the customer constantly, I think we probably speak to our customers more than most legal teams. Engaging with that customer, we understand what they need, they buy into what it is that we're trying to achieve, and so they talk about what we're going to do. And those influencers that we're able to flip over, so people who are, like, think about it on NPS, like strong detractors, can become strong advocates if you really engage with their needs. I'll give you an example. I was at our first summer party. So TravelPerk summer party next week, huge. Everyone's coming to Barcelona, it's mega. It's going to be incredibly hot. And even hotter than it is now.
People protesting?
Yeah, ridiculous. Anyway, my first one, this is 2022. The theme was like, it was like a Coachella, right? So it was like T Coachella, something like that. Okay. And so it's all the Coachella stuff. And I had woven wristbands made for my team to lean into the Coachella theme, and they had, and sorry, this sounds incredibly dorky, sorry listeners, they had like legal messages on, and it said 7-star legal, and I was talking to somebody in the drinks queue, and I was like, they were like, where do you work? Because typical, company meeting question.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, legal, see, 7-star legal, and she was like, 7-star legal, don't make me fucking laugh, like went like completely started ripping me, and anyway, that person who has just become what we call a sales player coach, just became, because I like, right, tell me what you, like, now's not the time. When we get back to the office, I'm going to book time with you, and you can just scorch my face off. And she did.
Right.
But it was hard truths. She's like, I am in a knife fight with our competitor, and these are the things that are blocking me being successful. I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do for you, and you can hold me accountable for delivering this.
Right.
Getting into the idea of shipping timelines, accountability, like value proposition. And sure enough, we turned around, and she then started turning around and going, I didn't like these guys, but actually, and so once that kind of person flips over, it's a longer burn, right? It's a much longer burn, because you have to trust that, again, people build product typically in legal for the C-suite, because they think they're the most influential people. You can't like come in and be like, hey, here's a big signature legal thing. It's probably not that important. And your understanding of what the customer needs is going to be very tailored by whatever it is, 3 to 10 people have a view on. Instead, if we're building value at scale and we just are trusting ourselves to roll that positivity up the organization, eventually the C-suite finds out, but they find out in a really organic way from people that they trust to give them the real answer on whether or not you're delivering value. And so that then turns the conversation around, but you just have to trust that's going to come. And it comes through being really dedicated to delivering value. And if you are dedicated to delivering value, it will come. It will come. You just got to let it roll up.
Well, sort of customer experience, user experience at the centre. Yeah, sounds like a really good model, really well put as well. Brilliant. So yeah, if we could move on to lesson number 3.
Okay, care about culture.
Okay.
So we are proud to be recognised by the FT Innovative Lawyers, which we were last year. And one of the interesting things when you talk to folks about the way that it's not like an award entry, they approach you and they talk to you about like what you're doing, which is innovative and so on. And I understand why they do it this way. They tend to focus on, okay, but what's the outcome? Okay, so how much more efficient are you? How much costs are you saving? Like, it's very heavy focus right now on efficiency, which we might maybe come back to in a second. All the innovation that we are able to deliver comes downstream from the culture that we build. And I find it incredible that I'm still talking to people about why their legal tech implementations are failing. And it is typically like, well, look, we got Copilot and we have time set aside every week for everyone to use it. And yet no one's using it. Right. Okay. Because they asked for an animal and you bought them a pony, and then we're like, why aren't you riding the pony? Well, I wanted a cat. So that, again, if we are, and again, thinking about that value proposition and talking about curiosity, we're talking about hiring for curiosity. Again, all these things form, even those things are the second step down from what is the culture that we're trying to build and how are we rolling out to present ourselves to our internal customer. So again, I think law firms have gotten better at this, but law firm cultures are typically quite homogenous. Okay, and you don't really think about what is our value proposition as a firm as distinct from that other group of predominantly white men and women who are just in the building over the street.
Yeah, they're just relationships or people or something.
Yeah. And it will anyway. I'm not criticising law firms. I think it's difficult because not all customers are like us, and not all customers are just like, tell us what you're different, which is a really hard question for law firms to answer, in my experience. But in-house teams are also doing this. Again, they see their culture as being subsidiary to the company culture, which of course it can be, and that can have some negative consequences sometimes. But again, as a leader, or even if you're a member of a team and you want to lead yourself in the future, I think thinking about, again, what am I doing which is not purely output focused, but instead input focused, to really drive the culture that I want to work in, that makes me excited to get out of bed every morning, that makes me feel like I'm offering growth for the whole team. And if you're a member of that team, challenging, again, I talked earlier on about the importance of challenging. It is up to you to build the career that you want. So if you ask your boss, like, what kind of culture are we trying to build here? What are you optimizing for? What do you think your incentives are? And they have bad answers to those questions, or indeed they just go, shut up and get on with the contracts. whatever it may be, then you should probably leave.
A barista.
Right. Like, go make some more coffees. Like, again, and we touched on this earlier on, having confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not feeling confident in what it is that you're doing, if you're, the environment around you is not speaking to you, you've gone through, if you're getting, you're receiving money from a law firm or an in-house team, you have gone through multiple layers of success. Like, you've been very successful at school, you've been very successful at university, most likely. Obviously, there's alternative routes into the profession now, but I'm just going for the sort of majority. You've probably gone to a law firm, you've succeeded there because you got through your training contract, right? Somebody then employed you to do work after that. Like, these are hard things. Don't judge yourself by the very thin demographic and achievement slice that you judge yourself by.
Yeah.
Take a step back and go, all that work that my former self did, am I really returning that back now? And again, it might not be you, it might be them. And you deserve, you owe it to yourself to find out, right?
Yeah. In terms of the team, so team culture, company culture, the parallels between those, and then individual values, or what you're looking at as an individual, how important do you think it is for those to mirror, or do you think there can be gaps there that can still, I guess, give someone that drive and motivation to work in a business or a team that the culture is slightly different to where they would personally take it?
Well, look, I think that ideally you have all those things in a line, and that's when you really get the rocket ship, right?
Yeah.
So this is a great place for me to grow. Actually, let me flip that around. I understand where I want to get to with my career. I understand, and we very strengths-based development, right? So I understand where I'm really good and I can be great, or where I can be from great to world class. So I understand that. And I have enough agency to be able to select and build tasks today that help me achieve that end goal and make me great at those things. So if we can align all those things, first of all, I think then you have the potential for real superpowered outcomes. Going back to the question of values, we draw our values down from Travel Perk's values. So our version of what those are in a way that really speaks to people, because ultimately when we're assessing people's performance, we're going to do it against a set of values as well.
Right, yeah.
So and again, just to sort of draw that out into a practical example, if you do a really good job marking up a contract, that's probably, and it's not to speak to the values necessarily, but it's not going to have impact. Having impact is critical. So again, that we're also trying to encourage the people to take a much longer view. We talked about working in sprints. Not everything has to be done in a 6-week period, but even getting people into the idea of taking a task, breaking it down. This is what we can deliver within that. Some tension around, is that ambitious enough for this particular sprint, and really focusing on that. Again, that also speaks to the way we work and our values, but it also connects into that kind of model of personal development as well. Again, you see people coming in and everybody wants to, when they're new to a team, everybody wants to show great value straight out of the gate. And some of that is just calming everybody down. It's going, we know that you've got the fundamentals to get to where we want you to get to. So forget what you thought was value before.
Yeah.
It's going to come as that slow burn. I think that's also something about our culture. We're patient with people. We're impatient with results, but we're patient with people to allow them to find whatever that is. Because again, even having a conversation with somebody and saying, where do you want to get to? What's the ultimate version of this for you? What would success really feel like? Is a hard question. It's not easy, particularly for folks that have had this very linear career path. Where you do go, great A levels, great degree, training contract, blah, blah, blah. And then you're just
yeah. It's, I think it's something that shifts all the time, right? Your individual, your values, or where you want to get to. They don't have to be completely static. Cool. And you touched on the FT awards and the self-nominating thing. What's your take on the legal press and the awards generally for branding of your team?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I can't. I'm not going to be sniffy and hipstery about it, right? All the teams that I've worked with have ended up winning something, and I do think it's good for the team because, again, although it's not a high five culture. When you receive that degree of recognition, there are some people in my team who are just they couldn't care less. There are some people who really, really like it. And we touched on network earlier on. I'm also very strongly into people building their network. Like you will find travel bookers doing podcasts, you'll find them doing talks and workshops and all these kind of things. And that is because, like again, we touched on it earlier on, it's on you to build your career, build the career that you want.
Yeah.
And you've got to get out there and network. So if you want to take that award win and boast about it and create opportunities for yourself, like I'm fine with it.
Crack on, yeah. No, I think it's leverage. It's leveraging.
Yeah.
You have a network, and then you leverage through that network. And I don't think it's necessarily the natural instinct for lawyers to lean into that. And I think there's a lot of pushback on like a brand for in-house lawyers as well. But I know Tom in your team has a podcast we were talking about as well before we came on. What was his driver for that, and I guess how's that come around?
So this is Law What's Next, which is Tom and Alex Herity from Adidas.
Yeah.
That came about because, again, we hire for curiosity. Tom is a very curious person, very customer-centric person. And I think, and this is not to diminish legal conferences and so on, like there's some great knowledge that's shared in those places. Tom wanted to be in conversations with people that inspired him. And he's not baristas, coffee machines, right?
Yeah.
He just looked at it like, right, okay, I can continue to go to conferences and like place a bet that I'm going to be in a conversation with somebody that really inspires me, or I can start this and we can have great conversations with people who I know are really exciting, and I can learn from that, and they're building content based on that. So I love that for him because he is by nature somebody that needs to be at the cutting edge, and he is there. I mean, in terms of and this is true for many members of the team, strengths-based approaches do mean that when you really invest in people's strengths, you end up with some people who have got a very sharp cutting edge, and that's when you start to really unlock tremendous levels of value. And again, that's not to say that I don't want people to be good across the board, and I don't really mind if people are bad at things. Obviously, it doesn't harm the value prop, but when people are really great and you just see them realizing for themselves where their ceiling is, that's a wonderful thing.
Brilliant. Well, we're almost out of time, but I'll ask you for your book or a podcast recommendation that you have. We've already spoke on What Got You Here Won't Get You.
Yeah. Marshall Goldsmith is which basically you can just read the front cover of that book. What Got You Here Won't Get You There. That's the learning. So I'll save you the time on that one.
What's that app that summarised books and I can't remember the name of
I've taken that to a new level now. You just have to look at the front cover.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Apart from that one. So it is Clayton Christensen's The Innovator's Dilemma.
Okay.
So this is there's if you're a business book person, which regrettably I am because I travel a lot, it won't surprise you to learn. What you'll see is there are sort of like a small number of classics that just kind of get repurposed and repackaged and so on. So you kind of have the 90s or even earlier business book era, which is very dry and very kind of like loads of footnotes and stuff. And then you go through the Malcolm Gladwell era where it's all just kind of, let me tell you about Joe, right? Like all that. And now it's all very well being focused on kind of Oliver Burkeman kind of meditative, let's sit with the lessons that we're learning here kind of stuff. Anyway, this is very firmly in the first of those categories. You're going to pick it up and you're going to learn a lot about the history of hard drives. And you need to sort of like ignore that because it's framing. Because the real gold in Innovator's Dilemma is when we talk about companies like Nokia, BlackBerry, Kodak, we talk about management of those companies like these guys are idiots. Mainly was guys, I should imagine, from that era. So, okay, they're just idiots. They failed to see this thing coming and then somebody came up and the business died. And that was that. What the Innovator's Dilemma tells us is they weren't idiots. What they did is they listened too much to their customers. So with Kodak, their customers told them they wanted really high quality print images. And so Kodak optimized for really high quality print images. And they just got better and better and better and better and better at doing that. And of course that also lent them a lens through which to look at digital images. Because they then went, well, our customers aren't going to want that. These images are terrible. So what happened was that technology goes off and finds its market, which is people who actually just want to take loads and loads and loads of photos. Yeah. This is also connected with the internet, so they want to like launch those things live. But what happens, of course, that technology gets better and better and better, and the image quality gets better because the product doesn't stop at the point at which it's developed. And so eventually it gets bigger and bigger, and then it eats their market. Again, similarly with BlackBerry, right? Customers just talked about keyboards, and I was a BlackBerry guy back in the day. You can't be now because they don't have a phone. I was a keyboard. Like I have to have a keyboard. And I resisted the iPhone for like 3 years because I love my BlackBerry so much, which is, again, a very sad thing to say. Like, oh, that keyboard is just, like, the keyboard's so good.
Nice touch, a little roller.
Oh, I love a little roller. Don't talk to me about the roller. So, yeah, anyway, that's my point. You can listen to your customers too much. The reason why I think this book is particularly important for lawyers is because right now we are in an era where everyone's going, yeah, but the AI is not accurate, is it? So, yeah, it hallucinates all the time. It's not going to stay that way forever. Okay, so we think about, again, so the first lesson is they're not idiots, and so on. Second lesson is disrupt from within. Right, so again, who is going to come and eat your market? What is the market that you can't serve profitably now? Who are the people that you're not listening to? Not the customers that you have, but the customers that you don't have. Where are they going? So again, at the simplest level, who are the people that you never hear from in your legal team? Who are the internal people where you're like, something's going on there, and I'd love to know what it is, but I just don't know? Why are you not talking to them, right? Why are you just listening to your noisiest internal customer all the time? So I think that's really important. But also, again, when we think about disruptive technology, how would someone, if they were starting with a complete blank sheet of paper, so they didn't have your budget constraints, they didn't have your procurement perimeter, where, oh no, it can't be outside of the 365, that's why it's got to be Copilot, it can't be something that's actually good, it has to be this tool. What if none of that existed and someone was building what you do now from scratch? How would they do it? And it's really, really important, really helpful to have that disruptive energy because your customers' needs are changing. Right? Your customer doesn't care about accuracy, they care about speed and convenience, particularly in B2B. We adopt B2C trends in due course. Right? So if you're not optimizing for that, then you're moving away from what the customer expects. It's time to get those things back together. So again, ignore all the stuff about hard drives, but it's a good book. I would recommend it.
Nice. All right, we'll put a link into the show notes as usual. Well, thank you for your time. It's been a great chat. I think there was some hot chat that we said that we promised at the start involved in there somewhere. But yeah, really, really good to sit down and have a chat after a few exchanges and missed opportunities.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much for having me. Cheers.
Cheers, Andy.
I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Wordsmith AI, for sponsoring today's episode. As a legal tech company, Wordsmith AI share our belief that great legal teams can take amazing tools and transform the way that in-house legal teams work and operate. So to find out more about Wordsmith, head over to wordsmith.ai. So that wraps up another episode of Lessons I Learned in Law, powered by Heriot Brown in-house legal recruitment. Now, I share these stories each week to help lawyers of all levels and both in private practice or working in-house. And it doesn't matter if you're early in your career or you're already leading a team. Learning from your peers or from those who have walked in your shoes before, then this is the show for you. If you find it useful, I would love it if you could share it with your colleagues or share it with your network or drop us a message just to let us know that you're listening and that you're out there. Feedback really helps us grow the show and take it in the direction that gives the most value to you, our listeners. So until next time, I've been Scott Brown. Thank you.